Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Kristi Magraw. She's known for having developed a unique synthesis of Western healing, five element theory, and Western ways of working with the mind called the Magraw Method, which she established in 1979. She's a certified director of psychodrama and registered massage therapist. She's a member of Ontario Massage Therapists Association and a clinical provider of LENS, LENS. Kristi is also a music teacher, a professional musician and composer. Her CD, Everybody Has the Gift to Heal Themselves, inspires people to trust themselves in their self healing processes. She's also an author. She's the author of Note by Note, a tale of trauma, recovery, and musical discovery. So, this is my brief introduction of you, Kristi. But now, the question that I love asking all my guests is who are you in your own words?
Who I am. One thing that's important about me is my journey with disability. I was born with microtia, which means one small ear that doesn't work. And I acquired two other disabilities, one being facial disability when they cut a nerve, operating to try to get me to hear. And the other was dystonia, which is a muscle disorder. That's also connected with my ear. It's mostly in my voice.
Right.
So that's acquired. So through this journey of stretching the envelope of my disability, I learned many things, and everything I learned, I tried to pass on to my clients. I have a body-mind healing practice, and because I'm a musician and particularly a songwriter, I developed a method of working in the metaphor. If you want to turn it into a verb, metaphoring.
Yes, yeah.
Because the body speaks through the language of metaphor and the emotions as well, it's much easier to get a clear sense of them and not get lost in figuring things out.
Right. And that's so true. And metaphors are very much used in mythology, one, and also poetry. I know there's also music,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, and poetry a lot. And I have heard that it uncovers or reveals the truth in a much more, let's say, clear way than any other way.
Mhm.
And that's so true. It goes deeper, per se. So I would love for you to actually talk a bit more about the book that you have not actually talked yet about, but the book that you have written that I mentioned earlier, Note by Note. Talk to me about the main purpose of writing the book and the intention also.
So the main purpose was to spread my work a little broader and to also to solidify it in some ways in words.
Yeah.
And it was a personal journey as well. I did a lot of time traveling to, as I looked back in time and looked at my journals, and I love to write. I learned my love of writing when I was a teenager, and I was walking down the halls of my high school wanting to be invisible because at that point I was facing that I didn't have a normal face. And I felt invisible because people wouldn't look at me, didn't want to look at me. So that was one of my low points. But then I found the school newspaper. And when I found that, writing as an outlet and leadership, because I became the editor of it, that developed a love of writing. And I've loved to write. I've written poetry, songs, essays, and then a book.
Yes, yes. So, how would you describe the connection between writing and healing, or even spirituality, if we can extend to that?
Well, writing allows you to put what's in your head or your heart on paper, and then you can see it.
Yeah.
Plus, if you're writing using metaphors, which many forms of writing do, then it's like you are actually speaking from your body or your emotions. You're creating an opening and a channel from the inner to the outer.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. I love to write too. I remember, yeah, that was my journey in the very beginning, releasing some of the trauma. It's amazing how it does. It really serves that purpose of
It
releasing
does.
what's in the body, right? Stored in the body. So, for the audience to understand a little bit better, can you give us an example of a metaphor?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So I had a client who was coming to me for physical work with chronic pain. And we got to a certain point and it just plateaued.
Yeah.
It was not moving. And so I suggested to her that she find a metaphor for the sensations in her body,
Yeah.
pain sensations. So she came up with, I feel like I have steel in my calves. I feel like there's a boulder in my throat, and I'm clamping my jaws onto a branch.
Right.
They're that tight. And she said, this reminds me of a Zen koan, which is you are hanging onto a branch with your jaws,
Right.
uh, afraid to let go, and someone comes and asks you, what is the meaning of life? And you want to answer, but you realize if you do, you'll fall down.
Right.
So she said, at that point, I I've been hanging on to the branch of grief of my grandfather, lost my grandfather, afraid of losing that control. So as soon as she said that, she gradually was able to access the grief. She began to cry. And and then towards the end of the session, she came up with a balancing metaphor, which was, now my calves are silver, my throat, the boulder has melted, and it's a brook.
Mm.
And
Wow.
yes, I have fallen off the branch, but I've landed on a cloud. The cloud is floating above a beach. Well, that's an example of using metaphor. Also,
Yes.
just the title of this, The Essential Nectar of Life. Nectar implies something that we need, and it's sweet at the same time. And belonging is sweet.
Wow, that's another beautiful whole topic, right? Belonging, right? This is,
Yes,
yeah, that's the chapter, actually, chapter 10 in your book. It's
yes.
titled Belonging to. So, since you already mentioned belonging and, yeah, the sweetness of it, what is your understanding of belonging as of now?
Well, I've worked with feelings and events of not belonging for most of my
Yeah,
life,
yeah.
as most people who have facial disability do, because um, people are attached to seeing symmetry in a face. So, one of my great joys in life and turning points was meeting my friend Kristi, who has a smile like mine, an ear like mine.
Yes.
She's quite similar. And then I met a group of people who all had facial paralysis, and they wrote a book called The Hunt for My Smile, about
Ah,
people who've lost their smile and their journeys
mm,
to recover it. And that finding out about that group who had written a book too
mm,
really made me feel like I belonged. And over the years, I have achieved a feeling of belonging. So, but one of the ways I did it, I know I'm talking a long time here,
no, I
but
like that.
I would say the groundwork for belonging in a group, as you know, like with the smile people,
Yeah,
is belonging with my body, my own body, and being in my body, connecting to and belonging
yeah.
with my body.
Mm. Talk to me about your, let's say, you mentioned in the book about spirituality, how it became for you at some point. I think it was through the dreams that you had because you kept track of them. It became somewhat spiritual in the end, those messages. So I would love to hear from you your idea of spirituality and what it looks like today.
I'm going to get to that in just a sec because I wanted to talk about something that's similar to your experience
Yeah.
of not just a body. So this is about having a diagnosis for anybody who has illness
Mm,
or
mhm.
disability or injury, that what the diagnosis helps you do is to not identify it as being your fault. And so then you can rise above it and become more than your body, but still accepting your body, and you have a name on it,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
wonderful. It's wonderful to have a name. And my understanding, my spirituality has been there since I've been a child. And because my parents, who are Quakers, Society of Friend Quakers,
Yeah.
they believed that God was within. And the idea was to find God inside you. So I resonated with that. And so my spiritual journey has been very independent, so to speak. And a lot of it does come through my dreams. I have message dreams, and they're good and useful, and I've made really good use of my dreams.
Mm,
I've had forgiveness dreams towards my mother.
yeah.
That the one, it was a really good dream where we waltzed together. I had a dream where I was waltzing with her. That was a good, forgiving dream. And I I had a dream about a at the time I was just going into what I would call my third stage of life, um, where there was a white bird above me, a large white bird saying, "Yes, this is your third stage of life. So
Mm, wow.
go into it, embrace it, or go into it." So I've meditated a lot, and I also use my body as a form of meditation by just following the sensations and sometimes interviewing them, sometimes just letting them pass along. I do talk to my body a lot. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ah, I love that. This connection to what exists, right? What is here, what's present. Just why not? Just be. I
Yes.
think there. I probably heard about that before. That there was some sort of question. I don't know where I heard that somebody asked if you were trapped with somebody in an elevator for the rest of your life, what would you do? And then, some people would answer, I would just kill myself. I would kill the person. And some people, they would just say, I would make friends with that person. I would try to get to know them as deep as I could. So
Yes.
that kind of relates to what you're saying. Somehow it kind of made me, that came to mind, that picture of an elevator, and then you're just in the box with something, with somebody. And then what is the logical thing to do? To just connect deeper. That's how I feel about
Yeah.
the human experience. We're already here. Why not connect in a deeper way, in a meaningful way?
Yeah, and that could be translated into you are in your body, trapped, so to speak, and
Right.
so
Right.
you are in, so why not get to know it deeper? Why not? Why
Yes.
not speak its language? Why not find out what that little weak muscle is telling you, or that
Right.
pain in your back, right?
Right. I love the way you brought it closer and closer, right, to the
Yeah.
individual reality, right? Very personal. Yes. Going back to dreams, I had a question for you when I read that about, yeah, dreams. You say in the intro of your book, you say, dreams have always been important to me, both those that arrive in the night and those that lead my days. So,
Mhm.
what are dreams from that perspective of psychology? Um, is that the expression of the subconscious, the conscious mind, or the subconscious mind?
I would say combination, and there's many different dreams. There's some dreams that are what I call digestive dreams.
Yeah.
There's some dreams that are get the emotion out dreams,
Yeah.
and there's other dreams that are message dreams.
Yeah.
So over the years of studying my dreams, I have a pretty clear idea which is which. You know, um, well, digestive dreams often contain a lot of mundane type things.
Yeah.
Message dreams, and of course, anything can be a message, right? If you If you go deeper into the symbol, it often one that you think might be just, oh, that's a digestive dream, can actually be a message. So if I keep thinking about a dream, then it usually means there's a message for me in that dream.
Yeah. Okay. So if it stays long enough, in a sense, it's very
Yeah.
memorable, right? Yeah.
It happens around a important event. For example, last
Yeah.
night I had a dream and I'm going, okay, I think this is a message dream. And
Yes.
it was about talking to a group of people. I mean, getting to know deeper a group of people. That
Ah.
was what I was doing.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah,
Yes, knowing that we are never alone, right?
that's
Whatever you
right.
talk to, you're talking to a crowd, not just one entity.
Belonging. We're
For
belonging.
yes, yes, I love that. Oh my God. So much to talk. We'll go back to the topic of belonging. Of course, I have lots of notes here. Before
Yes.
that, for those who don't know, Kristi, can you please
Mhm.
explain what psychodrama is?
Oh, yeah. Psychodrama is a form of therapeutic role play,
Yeah.
and you have a protagonist, that's the person who's doing the work. You have a director, that's the therapist who is kind of, keeping the flow going. And then you have the actors who are helping the protagonist.
Right.
And basically, what you do a process of reenacting a moment in your life or a future moment. It can be either one. And then if it's a traumatic moment, often towards the end, after they've, really felt it, you do what's called a repair on it. And this is a very magical
Mm,
experience
mm,
because you're then building the ground, changing the ground from which you're built upon. And and if you when you use imagination in psychodrama, you use quite a few props. At least I did. And now, of course, it's resurging. These methods are coming back in various
right,
forms, like
right.
in internal family systems and havening, and even in psychodrama. It's coming back, which really surprises me.
Right. Oh wow. So the way you said it's rewriting, the goal is to rewrite the story, right? Our own
Yes,
way that we have
that's
been
right.
wired. This is a good time to talk just for a moment about trauma. So what is your understanding of trauma? Do you use this idea of the trauma with the capital T and the small t, or trauma is a trauma?
I think of it as a continuum. I think continuums are really helpful
Yeah.
in terms of, I mean, I do think the term complex PTSD is useful
Yeah.
to identify the very worst. And
Yeah.
then and 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 then you have all kinds of trauma and all kinds of PTSD. And to me, I would rather not make too much of a value judgment on what, you know, is this a big T or a little t, right? But more, let's just deal with it. That was a bad experience for you. So, other than recognizing that something like, I mean, I would liken complex PTSD more like, approach it more like a disability, which where
Yeah.
you can't really cure the disability, but you can learn to manage it. Whereas, something higher up on the PTSD scale, you might really finish one off. So it's important with labels just to be careful of them and make sure nobody gets put in a box.
So true. Yes, I love what you said about complex PTSD too. That makes sense. It's a disability because I relate to that. I never did therapy, but because I talk to so many therapists, it's almost like I have. The more I talk about, the deeper I understand what happened to me. You said something that really resonated with me. Oh yes, you said I developed a survivor pattern, as many people with PTSD do. I defined a survival pattern as a narrowed life that is built on top of an iceberg of fear and despair caused by trauma. That really stopped me when I read that because and then I started to kind of see my life now. Is my life now built on top of an iceberg of fear and despair? And it seems like it did. It is the truth. It is the truth. And it's very humbling to see that. Like, wow, I do this today. I love having meaningful conversations, and it's the only way I can connect to human beings, really. Well, I'd love to hear from you a bit more before I mean, all this leads to belonging, doesn't it, Kristi? The
Yes.
recognition of how we have been hurt and to the extent we have been hurt. And what can we do about it? Take responsibility for what we are not responsible for. So, talk to me about that, the survival pattern. Do we really coming to realize that? Does it change something?
Yes, it does. For one thing, it can help you understand states of dissociation, which are common
Yeah.
with trauma. And with dissociation, of course, you also have the emotion of shame, which is, in my mind, the stickiest emotion to deal with. So, and the problem with shame and belonging is it blocks you. Shame blocks you from yourself, first of all, and then also makes you want to hide from others. So, and or pretend. I, because I felt ashamed of my face and my ear and my vocal disability, I hid many times. And one of the ways I hid is through accommodating. And many people accommodate for many different reasons
Yeah.
because they look different, they act different, they have different skin colors, so many reasons that we feel shame. But mine was okay, I don't hear normally. Okay, so I'm going to accommodate by
Yeah.
turning my right ear towards whatever I wanted to hear. And, in the name of not making a fuss, like not making a fuss, um, I did that over many years and I acquired postural injury, which I metaphored, of course, I
Yeah.
metaphored as
Yes.
a twisted tree trunk. And so old twisted tree trunk, even
Yeah.
though I wasn't old.
Right.
So as I began to work with that, I I went, why didn't I make a fuss? Why didn't I ask somebody just to move to my right side? Why didn't I ask to sit in the front left, so I could hear what was on the stage? so so I began to ask myself those questions. Of course, why did I have to prove myself worthy? That was shame. And
Yes.
um, uh, and I during that time, I realized I was seeing myself through the eyes of others, and or what I imagined was in their eyes.
Yes.
And I wanted to stop that and heal my tree trunk so that it could become strong, straight, and have flowering branches.
Oh my God, Kristi. Yes. And you did mention that in the introduction of your book that that was the goal, really, just by sharing the journey, your healing journey, what you've been through, that this could touch others. And it did. I mean, it touched me profoundly. Was just some of the message that I could really assimilate, that I could absorb. What people call being authentic, the authenticity kind of concept. The more authentic we are in a sense of embracing our own failures, successes, our own truth, then
Mm.
something happens, something magical happens. And I see that more often than not now with the people that I talk to, of course. And that's it takes courage, doesn't it, Kristi, from what I see? Would you say courage or use a different word?
Courage, and um, being willing to tell yourself the truth.
Yeah.
And this is where the body can help because I view the body as an instrument of truth.
Yeah.
And so that tuning into your body and hearing what it has to say will help you to become more authentic and humble.
And very humble. I agree. You see, there's something about vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we are all here. having this experience and
Yeah.
exposed to so much, right? Anything could happen to the body and the mind
Yeah.
at any moment. Yeah, there's something about embracing that also changes everything.
Yes.
So going back to, gosh, there's so many points here. I love what you said about the book too. You said, I wrote this book to understand my story and use it as an illustration of the power of body work in music as healing modalities. I
Yes.
mean, you make the very clear statement from the get go. So let's go back. Oh gosh, belong before going back to belong, the essential nectar of life, which is chapter 10 in your book, note by note. I want you to talk to me about your connection to your uncle. That touched me too, Uncle Dick. Talk to me about how you changed after knowing him better, knowing what he had done and what his mission was.
Right. Well, one of my great sorrows in life was not being supported. And this was because when I was young, the attitudes towards disability were very unsupportive,
Right,
and also unsupportive of the parents and the siblings of anyone who had a disability. So there
right.
was a whole gap, and this affected our whole family and obviously me. So when I later in life found out that my uncles had made efforts, though my parents had rejected them for I'm not sure what reasons, it made me feel supported in retrospect. So it made such a difference, and also the fact that my uncle gave me some money to complete the book. I'm going,
Yeah,
okay, this
yeah.
right before he died, he gave me a gift, and I knew it was for the book, and that gave me the support I needed to keep writing. And you know how hard it is to write sometimes, and his support gave me that. And my parents had passed by this time.
It's almost like a continuation, right? You talked about continuum before. Like there's something about the interconnectedness of life, which I go back to this nature trying to find harmony, in all of,
Yes.
and then if you look, I mean, if you look at a tree, you see that the roots, everything's connected, right? It goes
Hmm.
really far, and then they connect it to different trees. And when you really look close enough, everything is connected. They are supporting
Yes.
one another. So that kind of that's the metaphor for you and your uncle. When I read that section in your book, kind of that came to mind.
Mhm.
So let's talk about belonging. And there's gosh, again, there's so much what's to belong, but there's something that you said under community and a mystery solved. You say just being a member in a group does not guarantee a sense of belonging. So talk to me about that.
You know what's funny? That was the excerpt that I was going to read, or that I would
Ah,
like to read.
really? Ah, and I have it here highlighted in pink.
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
good. We're on the
Yeah.
same page, so to speak. We're on the same page. So, would you
Yes.
like me to read that,
Please.
or
Please, Kristi.
okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, being seen and being known are basic human needs. When they are not met, we feel lonely. Just being a member in a group doesn't guarantee a sense of belonging. If someone conceals their shame around a disability or anything else, they are spending their energy engaged in secrecy and trauma driven protection behaviors. They will often make themselves small. Influenced by my Norwegian background and attitudes towards people with disabilities when I was a child, that is what I did. The opposite action is to draw myself up to my full height, to take up space, and to ask for what I need. Showing up in community and not feeling like I have to pretend. This is belonging, and this is what I am learning. A lifelong learning.
Yes. It is a lifelong practice for sure.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful one too.
Yeah.
So not just by being a member, and yeah, doesn't mean that that's true because going back to what you said about shame before, yeah, that
Yes.
would
Yes.
block, yeah, that would
That
block
would
us
block that. Yes, that blocks that.
because you don't want to show parts of yourself, so you can't really connect or
That's
belong,
right.
right? When you're hiding.
Well said.
Gosh, Chris, this is such a powerful, empowering, and insightful message for all of us. With that in mind, I know the topic is. I want to go back to belong, and I want to talk about the Kizuki pottery. I think that you mentioned that in that area too. That
Yeah.
really resonates with me. I have heard before. I interviewed somebody. Actually, the whole conversation was about that.
Yes.
So I want to bring that into the conversation again. But before that, how do you make sense of suffering?
That's a good question. I try to make sense of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Sometimes, again, suffering is a continuum and has many different causes. So, if it's suffering that's caused by self hatred, let's say, then that would be, in my mind, unnecessary
right,
suffering. And I would want to learn how to forgive and love myself.
right.
If it's suffering that comes from, let's say, an illness, and then sometimes it's a learning suffering. So I went through that. I had breast cancer, and I learned a lot. So, and in terms of suffering out there in the world, that's the one that really stumps me because there's so much of it, and I feel so helpless. So
Right, right.
I tell myself, if I can handle my own suffering, if I can offer things to others, that's what I can do. So I try to focus on what I can do and where I can have effect.
Yes, right. Yes, yes. That's a very wise way of navigating the realm of suffering. Yes. I remember asking somebody about, no, how do you make sense of suffering? The same question I usually ask a lot of my guests here. And
Mhm.
one of them said, I don't make sense of suffering. I make meaning out of it.
Oh, that's a good one. I wish I'd said that. That's a really good one.
Yeah, that was a good answer, right? I mean, we all do
Yeah,
that, but it's sometimes we don't even have to have the clear kind of understanding language for it. But we are doing that. We are making meaning out of suffering. And I actually have heard that before as something that's almost like the ultimate truth when it comes to the human experience, because pain is inevitable anyway. So it's making meaning out of it. What meaning? What purpose can we give to pain, but not suffering? I have heard that some people say that suffering is different, but I don't know. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Suffering and pain, are they one and the same?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't differentiate.
Yeah.
I think it's. I don't know. I don't. I wouldn't see that as being really helpful
Right.
to
Right.
try to
Yes.
have to decide, but rather just deal with whatever it is that hurts.
Yes.
Sometimes shit happens, and you just have to say, "Oop, that's hard and that
Mm,
hurts."
yeah.
And sometimes you have to say it for a long time before you find the meaning. So, I really think that people do the best that they
Mm.
can.
Let's go back to the topic of belonging and Kizuki pottery. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. It's kind of not, it's a Japanese word.
I think it's pronounced kintsugi.
Kintsugi,
Uh,
right.
yeah, kintsugi pottery. Yeah.
It's such a beautiful idea concept. So talk to me about that for those who don't understand. I have actually a message here, a passage in your book that you have written about that, but I would love to hear from you. How did you actually use that as a metaphor as well for your life?
Yes, I did, and particularly because actually it was a metaphor that was given to me by one of my clients, and she said,
Yeah.
"I think this metaphor talks about your work," and I was going, "Oh yeah, okay, I think it talks about me,"
Yeah.
and because
Yes.
the idea is that I was broken. I was
Yeah.
broken by my operation that crunched my face, and then gradually over the years, I mended and I mended, and I do feel that I found a kind of beauty that I'm
Mm,
willing to offer to the world. That was one of the reasons I wanted to do a video, you know.
right.
Yes, so I could say, here I am,
Yes.
and so it's the idea that you can take something that's been broken and make it beautiful. And again, it's a metaphor for, finding yourself after trauma.
Mm, yes. Oh my God, Kristi. I don't see actually anything more beautiful than doing what you're doing. It's learning from what you went through and then sharing that with others, passing that on, that wisdom. So to me, that's beauty. That's I mean, I say that here all the time because I see that. It's like, it's so beautiful to listen, to see humans helping one another. So at the end of every chapter, you have something called the innate intelligence ladder. So at
Yes.
the end of chapter 10, which is the one that we have been talking about, the belonging, the essential nectar of life, you message 4 says it's part of that. I just have part of it here. Trust the mother in you, your actual mother in spirit, and the mothers around you to have your best interests at heart and the competence to help you finish your trauma story with repair and dramatic power so it will touch others. So that really, you see, it goes back to that over and over again. It seems like something in me keeps looking for that message of interconnectedness, of life, loving life, and supporting life, and that's a picture of humans kind of coming together to, you know, um, beautifully, kind of gently push one another toward the wholeness. So we can see that we are whole. We are not broken. We are not parts. We are part of this. We are just part of this wholeness, this beautiful,
Yes.
right? We are
Yes.
that. So we are not just part of it. We are wholeness.
Mother repair, as what I'm talking about, mother work,
Yes.
allowed me to change my metaphor from feeling like a seed drifting in the wind to, like you say, being a part of things.
Yes, it that gives us that feeling of belonging, right,
Yes,
Chris?
it
That's just a
does.
feeling. It's a feeling. You see, because we
It
already
is.
belong. So it's just
Yes.
we have that disconnected feeling that we don't because of the
Hmm.
experiences of body mind. But when we tap into this, which I call pure consciousness, that's coming from Vedanta. I'm a student of this Hindu spiritual philosophy. So when we go back to this uh, substance that holds everything, then it's easy to see that, wait a minute, I'm already whole and I'm just having a
Hmm.
playful experience of feeling disconnected. And so I can play in separateness and duality. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's how I see it.
Oh yeah, that's kind of Zen, maybe kind
Yes,
of
right.
Hindu. And yeah, yeah,
And it's not religious. Hopefully, it doesn't come across, that's a religious thing.
no,
It's a spiritual thing. It's a
no,
spiritual understanding.
yeah,
That
yes.
even lately, I have been kind of becoming almost like shy of the word spirituality. I'm kind of not using that as much because I see some people very sensitive to it too. Some people have been traumatized, which I have been too, with,
Indeed.
right?
Some people have, yeah.
Yes. So, we don't want to kind of even use certain words. Do you use the word God, Christy, sometimes, or you avoid using?
No, I use it. I just, make sure that I don't use language that, puts it on somebody else. That's
Yes.
me. It's for me. It's my understanding of God. But I also will use the word universe or the creator. These are other words that I use. And sometimes just I use your higher self, right? Or
Yeah. Yes.
nature.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody has a different way of tuning in. So the trick I find is to really listen to the person's language, and then you know how to speak to them so that they don't get put off or offended.
Right. Yeah. Because some people do get hurt, yeah, by some
Yeah,
of the
because they
terms.
have been hurt. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. They have been hurt already. Right. Right.
Mhm.
You see, that's another guiding principle for me, to be gentle but truthful. So I love the way you say also that you have learned to use my body as a guide. I
Yes.
know you have been saying that, but it was in front of me here. So Going back to belonging, let's see, we don't have much time, but gosh, and I have so many.
I have an idea, which is
Yes,
I have and one of the exercises I developed to help
yes.
people coming out of my own experience um, is an exercise called Bring Your Body Along.
Mm,
Um, and so I thought I'd just read the intro for that. And this goes back to the idea is if you belong within yourself, then belonging to anything else becomes easier.
oh, I love that. Yeah,
Okay, so this is that exercise.
yeah.
Bring your body along. Often we approach transitions in our lives, for example, in relationships, jobs, or events, without knowing how our bodies are reacting. Frequently, we ignore our own sensations and signals completely, struggling through the events of our lives and feeling pain from not bringing our bodies along.
Mm,
Fear and anxiety prevent us from using our bodies as instruments of truth, as a direct line to our intuition. If we address our needs as intuited through our bodies before entering an activity, we can avoid waking up in the middle of an action with unmet needs manifested as pain or discomfort.
yes, yes. See, this is has been the message. I know for you, I see the in the book, that's throughout the book, the theme, right? You even have a technique called for keeping the body in mind. So that also caught my attention. So it has been amazing, Christy, to connect with you at different
Mhm.
levels, because it really made me to kind of go back, a little bit to the past and bring this just reflect on trauma, and then be just more present. I felt it, me being the body being more present, just reading the messages in your book. But above all, is that the courage that really caught my attention. Have that courage coming from the heart and doing, speaking your truth and being true to you, which means coming here, being whole wherever we go. Just bring our whole being and not just parts of us. Which I know and I understand that's not easy for most of us, but it's a wonderful invitation. Thank you so much for being you.
Yes, and thank you for being such a lively, lovely interviewer.
Oh my God, I love this. I have to tell you again
Yeah, I can
that
tell.
you see, I
Great.
love connecting in a deeper sense. And sometimes we try to,
Yeah.
I know for me has been like, why do I do this? We have those questions, which I love questions, deep questions. But sometimes dropping the questions is also great, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
being present.
Yeah.
I feel alive and I feel happy now and joyful. So what else? Just be here, be with that too. So thank you so much again. And before we
Thank
say
you.
goodbye for today, I'll have the link, of course, of your book link. I love the design though, the cover of your book. It's so beautiful. That didn't
Yeah,
surprise me. You being an artist, so
yeah.
beautiful.
So I came up with the concept, and then I
Wow.
had an artist, a true visual artist, render it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it really, really made sense to see that it's almost being consistent, being, that connectivity. I see that in your work everywhere. It's just so harmonious. That's what it is, harmony. Just
Oh,
coming
that's
back,
nice.
right, in
Thank you.
harmony.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Before we say goodbye for today, I have this question that I often ask everyone. So, for this platform especially, what is your idea of freedom? What is to be free? How would you describe that?
Well, to be free is to grow, to tell the truth,
Yeah.
and to forgive whenever necessary.
Yes. What's not to love about the truth? Yeah, being a truth lover. Thank you so much again for your presence, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now,
Okay.
Christy.
Thank you.
Beautiful Christy.
Okay.